I'm guessing that you set goals in some areas of your life. Now that might be lots of goals, maybe a few goals, maybe big goals, or maybe small goals. It's not important. But you probably already understand the value and the power of goal setting. I'm not here to talk specifically about goal setting today. It's not my specialist area. There's a lot of people who know a lot more than I do. There's great books out there and there's lots of free resources available on the internet as well. You've probably also come across the idea of SMART goals. SMART is an acronym. Different people have slightly different interpretations of it, but it's usually along the lines of that a goal should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. It's very self-explanatory. In a lot of ways, it's very straightforward, and it's the simplicity of it that in a lot of ways makes it very attractive. What I do want to talk about today is one of the ways that goal setting can go wrong. And forearmed is forewarned, so once you know about it, you can do something to prevent it from happening. In my early days of working as a hypnotherapist, I used to share case studies with other therapists so that we could all learn from each other. Now, if you've ever been to see a therapist, a hypnotherapist, any kind of therapist or counsellor, people do talk about case studies, but you can be confident because everything is totally anonymized and we change little facts just to make sure that people are completely unrecognizable. But anyway, my colleague told me about a client that had come to see her. It was a lady who was married with a couple of kids, and the lady had very low self-confidence and low self-esteem. In her relationship with her husband made all of the decisions. He decided where they were going on holiday, what kind of car they were going to drive. He even decided what they were going to eat every day, and he decided what clothes his wife was going to wear. Now, to some people that might sound a little bit strange, but actually the lady was perfectly happy. She wasn't unhappy. She just wanted to be a bit more confident and to be able to take a little control in her life and make a few more of the decisions. The therapist asked the lady to set a goal. What is it that you'd like to achieve? What is something that's specific and measurable and achievable and realistic? And the lady said, every day my husband tells me what we're going to have for tea, and one day I'd like to say to him, do you know what, would it be all right if we don't have chicken tonight? Would it be okay if shall we have fish instead? And they worked together for a while and they boosted this lady's confidence and self-esteem, and she hit her goal. One day her husband said, let's have chicken for tea tonight. And she said, do you know what? I'd really like to have fish tonight. Let's have fish instead. And her husband said, okay then. And the lady's self-confidence went through the roof. So she's hit a goal. She's achieved what she wanted to achieve. And then she started thinking about what she wanted to have for tea more often. And she started to buy her own clothes. And she started to think about wearing makeup and stuff like this. And everything was going well. She was really happy. Her confidence was going through the roof. And then one day, her husband left her. And it turned out that he quite liked being able to be in control in the relationship. And suddenly, his wife is not the person that he was able to control anymore. And not long after the husband left, the children moved out as well to go and live with their dad, because they blamed their mum for breaking up the family home. If you'd stayed the way if you'd stayed the way you were instead of having ideas above your station, this would never have happened. And so the lady had wanted to have a little bit more self-confidence, but she ended up being completely alone in the world. And she said at the end of it, I wasn't unhappy before. If I'd understood the consequences of setting this goal, I would have just stayed as I was. In NLP, when we're doing any goal setting, we add an element that's called an ecology check. It's also known as be careful what you wish for. Ecology is almost another word for ecosystem. How does our behaviour, how does our actions affect things and people around us? Another way of describing an ecology check would just be to simply say, look out for any unexpected consequences. The example of the lady whose husband left her is a very extreme example, but there are lots of other possible scenarios here, like people who want to get a promotion at work. because they want to provide more for their family, and they don't realise that this is going to mean more business trips away, and they don't think about what impact is that going to have on their children longer term, the fact that they weren't around so much when the children were growing up. If we were working together in a room, there is some physical processes that we would do to do an ecology check to make sure that your goals are going to give you the results that you're looking for. Obviously, we can't do that kind of thing in a video, but there are some questions that you can be asking yourself to make sure as much as possible that your goal is ecologically sound. Start out by asking yourself, who are the 4 or 5 most important people in your life? What you need to do then is clear the furniture and stand in the middle of the room and think about you, being you, wanting to set out on this journey to achieve your goal. And then I want you to imagine that you're still standing in the middle of the room, and take a step back from that and imagine you're seeing yourself in the middle of the room. Then I want you to think of those 4 or 5 people that you've just come up with, and in turn step into being that person. That might sound a little bit strange, but imagine seeing the world from inside their head. And in the middle of the room you can see yourself. So from this other person's eyes, you've seen yourself in the middle of the room. And from their eyes, ask yourself, how do they see you? What part do you play in their life right now? What needs do you fulfill for that person? And just do that for a few minutes, and then step out of that and step into the next person and see yourself in the middle of the room. And again, ask yourself, as that person, what part you play in their life and how they see you. And do that for all of the people. Once you've done that, go and stand back in the middle of the room and be yourself again. But imagine yourself when you've achieved the goal. And think about what you're going to be like when you've achieved the goal. And think about the journey that you went through to make it happen. And then once again, step out of that, imagining yourself in the middle of the room. And imagine yourself stepping into the body of person number 1 again, and seeing yourself in the middle of the room, having achieved the goal and everything that you went through to get there. And then once again, ask yourself, what impact has it had on this person? How do they see you now? How is your role in their life any different? How have things changed because of this goal that you've now achieved? And again, do that for all of the 5 people. When you do this, it's really common for people to come up with new information, things that they hadn't thought about before. I'm not going to give you examples of what kind of information because I don't want to lead you in any way. But suffice to say, by undertaking this exercise of stepping into other people's shoes, you begin to see things from a different perspective, and very often new information opens up for you. At the end of this process, some people like to tweak their goal a little bit just to make it fit in with different areas. And then once you've done that, you just do the ecology check once again. Because once you have done this, and you can be sure as much as possible that the outcome of your goal is not going to have any unwanted consequences in any area of your life, then suddenly this goal just doesn't just work for you. It works on many different levels in every area of your life. Suddenly it's much more congruent, and you can really, really go for it. Whatever goal it is that you want to go after, it's okay. It's perfectly okay to want to have a swimming pool in your garden, as long as you remember that at the end of it, your garden is going to be smaller. There won't be as much room for planting trees and flowers, and there won't be as much room for playing football. And if you're okay with that, then that's perfectly fine. Go get your swimming pool. Anyone who's ever set a goal knows exactly how powerful the process is. When you set a specific goal and you focus on it, you can achieve things that will even amaze yourself. So set lots of goals. Set small goals, big goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, and set some that are so big you don't even know for sure that you can achieve them when you set out. But when you are setting your goals, remember this: be careful what you wish for.